All right. What I want to do is I want to go over the beginning of English composition 101. Um, my goal is you can read this for yourself. I want to just briefly go over the topics. When we talk about English composition, we see here English composition. Okay, you can watch these videos. These are part of the course. Um, you can watch these for yourself. I just want to give you my point of view as someone who's an English major, undergrad, and someone who grades many students' work. And when I finish this this session of the day, I'll go and grade papers. And so I've graded thousands of students' papers over the years on at almost at the high school level and graduate in the undergrad level and graduate school level for the last 21 years. Someone who business is writing, I make my money from writing. My business relies on me being a halfway decent writer. So I want to give you kind of my position here on what academic writing is. Academic writing is about being, let me put it this way. Academic writing is about the 3 C's, okay? It's about coherence. Coherence is about being understandable. Understandable. Bottom line. Understandable and for whose eyes? Your audience. So when we're writing so that our audience, our intended audience, will understand what we're trying to communicate. So if coherence is a attribute of academic writing, then it's important that the writer knows exactly what he or she wants to say. It's important that writers know what they want to say. It's important that authors know what they want to say. It's important that the author knows what he or she wants to say. Okay. So in order to be coherent, you must first understand what you're trying to explain. Because ultimately, when we're writing academically, we're trying to explain something to someone, to an audience, in order for them to do something or believe something. And you must be convincing. Okay, convincing in a very coherent way, meaning the reader must trust you because you provide enough information, enough content, not too little, not too much, but an appropriate amount of content to get the reader to believe you and do what you want them to do, or at least consider your position. So a part of academic writing is about being confident. That's another C, but we'll put that to the side. That's 4 C's. That would make 4 C's. So we'll put confidence to the side. So you must write confidently. So for example, in academic writing, we would not say, in my opinion. In academic writing, we would not say, in my opinion, because when you say things like, in my opinion, that is weak. Okay. Let your reader, let your audience make the determination of whether it's an opinion or not. You will present every opinions, facts, and everything in between as if it is an absolute fact and truth. Okay, so That leads me to the next C, conciseness. We don't have to say things like, in my opinion, because that's just taking up the reader's time. In academic writing, you don't want to take up the reader's time. You want to be concise. Being concise means that number one, going back to number one, you must know what you are talking about. You have something to say. You have to have something to say. Okay. So conciseness means that you have something that you want to communicate to your reader, and you also have the vocabulary to create that communication. You have the vocabulary to create that communication. Okay. So one of a very important aspect of somebody please mute their mic. Somebody's moving around and disturbing. Right. So it's important that you have the vocabulary to communicate your point. Right? How do you get that vocabulary? How do you build that vocabulary? How do you build that vocabulary? You build that vocabulary through reading. You build that vocabulary through reading. Okay? When you're an author of whatever you're writing, you have to submit yourself as being an expert. You are an expert. And you have to write that way, whether you are an expert or not. You have to write as if you are an expert. So we write with another C word, confident. That confidence will allow us to be concise. Concise means right to the point. We don't need fillers. Concise means we do not write the way we speak. We do not use language in which the author or which the audience has to assume what we're trying to say. We don't use expressions. We don't make jokes. We don't use idioms. In academic writing, we say exactly what we mean, using the least amount of words possible. And the way we're able to do that is being an expert on what we're talking about, knowing exactly what we want to say, and having the vocabulary along with the knowledge, and normally they come one and the same, to communicate our point. Writing is the ultimate higher order thinking product. This is why it's very hard to do. It's the ultimate higher order thinking product. Because so much is involved with writing. You have to have comprehension. You have to have some knowledge of application, analyzing, evaluation, synthesizing. Okay. And writing is a synthesis. Okay. And I would I would respectfully submit that actually writing is a product of evaluation, and that's why evaluation is the higher ordered thinking skill. So we covered three C's: coherence, confidence, which comes out, a byproduct of coherence and conciseness is confidence. You feel confident. When you're writing, you have to have a certain level of self-efficacy, confidence. When you're going in, you got to know that what you want to say, how you want to say it, and you got to be confident. You have to experience efficacy and not be scared of writing. I think one of the biggest misnomers is people say that people have a phobia of public speaking. People do have a phobia of public speaking, but more greater than that, people have a phobia of writing. It's easier to get someone to stand up and talk than it is to get someone to write something and then present it to an audience. So you need to be concise. You need to be coherent, understandable, concise, saying what you need to say directly, using the least amount of words possible. So I challenge everyone on this group is in teaching, involved in education in some way, have been involved, currently is involved, or want to be involved in education. And I beg you, I plead with you, if you can, don't give your students word counts. Don't tell your students, write 500 words, write 700 words, write 100 words. That destroys and defeats the essence of writing, what true writing is about. What we want to do is teach students the writing process. What we want to do is teach students the thinking process, because writing is a byproduct of great thinking. Another thing I would respectfully submit that if you have control of this, many times we don't, is allow students to pick their own topics or what they want to write about. You will get a better product. Last C, cohesion. Cohesion. So we dealt with coherence. We dealt with the confidence, that you need to be confident. You need to be concise. Cohesion. Cohesion is what makes it readable. Cohesion is making sure that every idea, every sentence, every phrase, every paragraph goes back to support the main thesis. Or if you're writing a paragraph, the topic sentence. That there's not one sentence that's a filler. That every sentence has a specific purpose, whether it's to present the thesis, whether it's to present the main points, whether it's to provide supporting evidence, whether it's to define. That every sentence, every idea, every phrase has a necessary role, is compulsory to helping your reader understand exactly what you're trying to say and to get them to do what you're trying to do, or at least consider it. In academic writing, we're not writing to show how smart you are. We're not writing to show that you have a big vocabulary. This is not the point of academic writing. In academic writing, We use words that are appropriate to the topic that will help us create context, and we use high frequency words. High frequency words. What is a high frequency word? These are words that most people understand. These are words that most people use. Now, there are times where we use lower frequency words, especially if we're talking about something technical. But even then, you do your best to try to use words that people understand. Words that people use often within context. Don't try to show someone how smart you are or how big your vocabulary is, because that takes away from your coherence. And it also takes away from your cohesion, because it makes your sentences choppy, it makes your sentences awkward. Again, if you're writing to and your audience is a group of neurologists, and neurologists are very intelligent people, then obviously you're going to have some lower frequency words, some technical words there, right? But even still, you should do your best to use lower frequency words, because when people sit down to read, they want to be able to read it easily. They want to be able to understand it without challenge. The only challenge they would have is whether they believe you or not, or whether they want to consider your position or do what you want them to do. They shouldn't be challenging and understanding your piece, your product. So what is academic writing? Academic writing is writing in a way that serves a purpose for your reader to do something or believe something. That's academic writing. You're not writing to entertain. You're not writing to impress. You're writing to disseminate information in a way that's cogent and succinct. And you want to do it in the shortest way possible. That's what cogent and succinct means. You don't have to write a 50-page paper. If you can say the same thing in 5 pages, that's what we do. If you look at academic journals, especially recent academic journals and studies, you'll notice that over the years, academic journals are getting shorter and shorter. It used to be you read an academic journal, it was 30 pages long. And still there are long academic journals, but you start to see more and more 3, 4, 5, 8-page academic journals. Because especially if I'm doing research, I don't have time to read a 100-page academic journal. I need to read something that's cogent and succinct. And in academic writing, can you give your opinion? Absolutely, you can give your opinion, but you do not present it as an opinion. You present every opinion as an absolute fact. Let your reader determine whether it's an opinion or not. That's their problem. You have a mission. So this is academic writing. And if you understand that gem, you will be successful in writing, in academic writing. The next section in English composition course. Actually, let me stop there for a second. Is there anyone that has questions about the first section? Anyone who has questions about what I just said? No, outstanding. The writing process. Now, the writing process, I have come to, when I was younger, teachers, when I was in grade school, teachers talked about the writing process, and I said, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna write. I just need to turn it in. I'm just gonna write the final draft. My first draft is my final draft. If you want to turn in a good product, please follow the writing process. And the writing process is quite simple. Brainstorming, which is planning and deciding. Brainstorming is the most important part of the writing process of writing. And it goes back to what I said at first. You have to know what you want to say. You have to have some background information. You have to be knowledgeable about the topic that you're speaking on. It's much easier now because of the internet. You can Google things, you can go into journals, yada, yada, yada. It's not like 30, 40 years ago, we had to go to a library or open up the Encyclopedia Britannica, right? We have something called the internet now, where you have a whole litany of information. You have Google Scholar, right? Oh, guys, give me 1 second. My dog is barking. I don't want to disturb everyone. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. So the most important part of the writing process is the brainstorm. And the brainstorm is probably where people spend the less amount of time. People devalue the brainstorm, but the brainstorm is the most important part of the process. This is where you're devising your plan. What do I want to say? In the brainstorm, and this is where I teach my university students, here's where you come up with your thesis statement. Here's where you come up with your topic sentence. Here's where you come up with the essence of why you're writing whatever you're writing. So, you know how we procrastinate when we have a writing assignment? You can at least procrastinate by without actually physically writing, by at least brainstorming, thinking about what you want. What is your point? What do you want your reader to do? What do you want the readers to believe? This will help you go and research. So instead of going on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever you do, you can start to open up that Google Scholar, open up sources. Let me speak briefly about Google Scholar and the internet when you're looking up information. From an academic perspective, because we're talking about academic writing, you do not want to use Wikipedia or any open source information. Anything where any source of any information where the community at large can go in and change the information, that is not an academic reference. So Wikipedia is not an academic reference. Okay. Right. And when we're writing academically, the work we use should come from academic sources. And these sources are what we call peer reviewed. So journals, right? So you got to be careful of certain websites you use. Certain websites are good. You have to make that decision. YouTube videos. You got to be careful with YouTube videos. Is it some nut job who's just talking out of his head, or is it coming from like a university or a think tank or from someone who's renowned in the industry? So a lot of times when I do research, I may look at my favorite educators like Dr. Diane Lawson Freeman or Carol Ann Tomlinson or Ron Richard or John Hattie. You know, obviously, if John Hattie says something, that's a good academic source because he's respected in the industry. Dr. Diane Lawson Freeman says something, you can go with that. Whether she's on her Twitter account, whatever. If it's coming from Carol Ann Thompson, Dr. Lawson Freeman, you know, these heavy hitters, Crashing, Chomsky, it doesn't matter where, it could be on their Twitter feed. Go with it. But if it's coming from Ray Roberts, you might want to verify it. You might not want to cite that. Okay? Or you at least need to know who Ray Roberts is and see if he's of any academic value. Okay. So after you brainstorm, then you need to outline. Outlining is key because it helps you with that C, cohesion. Making sure in cohesion, you want to make sure you're not breaking unity. So outlining is very important. It helps you take that thesis statement you've written or that topic sentence or whatever that guiding sentence that you're writing, which it should either be a topic sentence or a thesis statement. And your outline will kind of will tell the story of whether you're on track to prove or defend that thesis or that topic sentence. So the outline allows you to visualize where you're going in your writing, and you can make adjustments. And then we have the drafting process. And you can, you know, your first draft, you know, most teachers in school, the first draft, second draft, you draft until you get it to the way you see fit. Now, hopefully, if you're at a university or you're in K-12 or wherever, there's a rubric that helps you make sure you're meeting the standards of the writing activity. But in real life, there's often not a rubric. Right? You just need to know what your purpose in writing. If you're writing for work, you need to know what the boss wants or what the intent of the writing is. But it's always good to have some type of guideline document that helps you make sure that you're drafting appropriately. And when you're drafting, right, you're revising after you write the first draft. You're then revising only for ideas. You're only revising for ideas. So you can have first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth draft, so on and so forth. And you might have 10 revision drafts of ideas because you don't like the way this idea might be. You need to go here. You need to do a little bit more research, so on and so forth. And then when you're happy with the content, because when you're doing all those drafts, revision drafts, they're for content only. You're not worrying about punctuation. You're not worrying about sentence structure. You're not worrying about any of that stuff. You're mainly worried about whether your ideas flow well together and they make sense and they build good cohesion, and the ideas are ordered in a way where it's going to help the reader understand the point that you're trying to make. Because ultimately, In anything you're writing, you're only making 1 point. You may have other sub points, but you ultimately want one main point. Okay, if you have a lot of things, then you probably need to write different writing products. And then finally, you have the editing draft. This is where you go over, make sure your sentence structure, you don't have any run-on sentences, fragments, commas are in the right place, all those mechanical and grammar issues are together. When you're revising, it should take a couple of days because you might get tired. You should get tired depending on what you're writing. So you might want to come back to it a couple hours later. Same thing with the editing. After you revise, don't try to go and edit. This is why it's important not to procrastinate in your writing. Give yourself some time to go to sleep, take a nap, go for a walk, go to the gym, and then come back to it. Because it's gonna look differently when you come back to it. You're writing, especially if you're writing 20, 30 pages or whatever you're writing, it's gonna look totally different because you're looking at it with a different eye. Okay, and then you come back and do your edits, and then you should have either software or a human being do the final edit. Somebody else should look at your work. Or if you don't have anyone that can look at your work at that level, then you need to get a program like Grammarly to do that stuff for you. Grammarly is awesome. And I gave you my suggestion last week about Grammarly. I'm not going to get into that again. All right, that's the writing process. If you want a good product, follow the writing process. If you want to turn in a product that is not as refined, don't follow the writing process. Try to do it all in one spot and all in one hump, an all-nighter, and see where you get. Key is give yourself time to write. Don't try to do it all in one hump, and follow the writing process. Remember, the brainstorm is the most important aspect of the writing process. The next section in this course, it deals with the basis of writing. I'm not going to get too much into this, but what I will say is that if you're writing an essay, or let's start with paragraphs. The simple key is cohesion, coherence, conciseness. Right? Know exactly what you want to say, as I've said. If you're writing a paragraph, write the topic sentence first. If you're writing an essay, write the thesis statement first. Another tip, I think I gave you this tip before. If you're writing an essay, write the introductory paragraph first and write the conclusion paragraph secondly. Don't wait till the end to write the conclusion paragraph, because basically the introduction paragraph and the concluding paragraph, they should be parallel. They should be one and the same. You're introducing the idea and the concept, and you're saying what you're going to do in the introduction paragraph. In the concluding paragraph, you're saying that you did it. Okay, then you write your body paragraphs. This will help you maintain unity, okay, not break unity, and it gives you a framework for your writing. So I suggest you write your introduction and your conclusion paragraphs first. If it's a paragraph, one paragraph that you're writing, write your topic sentence and your concluding sentence first, and then fill in the gap with the content. Okay. Thesis statements should, I'm not going to get too much in thesis statements, but they should be concise, direct, and they should be a roadmap to how you're going to prove whatever you want going to prove. So it should introduce the topic. It should, and it should be debatable, right? Your thesis statement should always be debatable. If your thesis statement is not debatable, you do not have a thesis statement. So it should introduce the topic. It should introduce the problem. It should give a roadmap of how you're going to find solutions to the problem, right? And what the solution to the problem is. That's in essence what you do in a thesis statement. Thesis should be debatable, must be debatable. Right? So basically, I should be able to read, or the reader, the audience should be able to read your thesis statement and know exactly what your essay is about. Whether your essay is 2 pages long or 75 pages long. The thesis statement should tell me, I should know everything about your essay based on the topic sentence. I mean, based on the thesis statement. Topic sentence should include a topic and controlling idea. Topic sentence should not be too general, nor should it be too specific. The thesis statement should be very specific. Topic sentence for a paragraph should not be neither too general or too specific. It should give you enough room to build and develop your idea. When you're writing a paragraph, paragraphs must serve a purpose within an essay. So every paragraph will have a topic sentence. So in a paragraph is almost, I look at an essay like or a paragraph like a business, and you have a hierarchy. The boss is the topic sentence in a paragraph. The boss in an essay is the thesis statement, right? And then the manager, assistant managers are the main point sentences, the introduced main points in a paragraph. In a essay, the assistant managers are the topic sentence for each paragraph. All right. The workers are the supporting detail sentences. They're the workers. Okay. That's how I look at it, and I structure my paragraphs and my essays as such. So every sentence has a job. Every paragraph has a specific function. Just like at work, you have elementary school, middle school, high school, then you have the HR department, you have the IT department, you have the janitorial staff, custodians. Everyone has a function, and that function is to support the school in some way. And the same thing for your writing. Every sentence, every word has a function, and it should go to supporting the boss, which is the thesis statement or the topic sentence. Here you see transitions. Transitions are important because they help you with cohesion, right? More important than like words like signal words or transitional words is that you use transitions through the development of your sentences. So the ideas, so your ideas should transition well. We call it, in speaking, we call it segueing, creating segues. And that's in essence what you're doing in your writing. So you're letting your ideas build upon one another in a way where you have good cohesion, which gives you strong coherence, right? And that's another reason why outlining is very important. In your conclusions, always just verify to the reader that you have in fact did what you said you was going to do, what you said you were going to do in the introductory paragraph. That you did in fact meet the challenge of the thesis statement. That you did in fact meet the challenge of the topic sentence. And that's all you have to do in the conclusion. In the conclusion, you make sure you do not introduce new information. Okay. I'm not going to get into argumentative paper types of papers, argumentative. I'm not going to get into that. I'll let you just read that section because there's no need to really talk about that. Citing sources and plagiarism. All right, let's talk about what you cite. It's citing plagiarism. Basically, plagiarism is taking information, taking ideas that are not uniquely your own. So anytime you take someone else's idea, you have to give them credit for it. Whether you read it, you saw it on a television show, saw it on YouTube, you read it in a magazine, you read it on a website, you have to give that person credit for it. All right. So there are three types of sites. There's three primary ways you cite. You either do a direct quote, which in academic writing, you don't direct quote a lot, right? You only, for instance, if you're writing a 2-page essay, you probably won't have any direct quotes, okay? For example, in my dissertation, which right now I have 3 chapters, it's about 75 pages long so far. I think I have 1 or 2 direct quotes, okay? If I have that, maybe 1 direct quote. And I think I quoted a word, like just 1 word, a couple of times. Mainly what you're gonna be quoting a lot is paraphrases. We paraphrase something that you saw, or you're going to intermingle your idea, your unique idea, with something else that you read to form a synthesis, right? And so so that's what you're gonna do most of the time, is you have an idea or you have a concept in your head, and you have another concept that you got from somewhere else, and you're intermingling those, you're integrating those two. So you have to cite that. So paraphrasing and summarizing or developing or fusing ideas is when you cite the most. All right, and then when you see a concept that's from a website, journal, whatever, you may paraphrase it. You're not going to paraphrase as much as you summarize something, or you create a synthesis of ideas. So you may find in one sentence you might have to cite 3 or 4 different works. Okay, so the basic key of it is that you cite any idea or concept that you didn't create, which means often that you're going to cite a lot. All right? Plagiarizing is using someone else's idea that is not your own. All right? So it's not just taking a paper from the internet and offering it and putting your name on it. No, it's taking any concept, whether it be one little sentence, one little idea, and not giving a person credit for it. You have plagiarized. Okay? Now, in a lot of plagiarism sites, in most universities, because they have most technology now can catch you in plagiarizing, but when you're paraphrasing, right, then it may come up as a plagiarize. So what most universities say is they'll give you a grace of 20% in these sites, right? So obviously, if you're quoting, if you made a quote, it's going to come up as a plagiarism, right? And also, if you're paraphrasing, some of that paraphrase may come up, it might cling up as a plagiarism. So that's why most universities say we can give you 20%. So when you do something like Grammarly and you do the plagiarism check, as long as it's under 20%, you're okay. If it's at 70%, you got a problem. All right, that means that, oh, Mr. Ray, I cited everything, I gave the author credit, and it's at 70%. That means you probably did too many direct quotes, or you're not paraphrasing well enough. Okay, so I'll let you read more about that in that chapter. Types of essays, papers, I'm not going to get into that. Writing styles, the one thing I'm going to say about writing styles is that you develop your writing style based on your thinking. Your writing style will change over time. Your writing style is your writing style, but it's normally a product of your experiences, and it's normally a product of your reading experiences and how much you're writing. So I wouldn't be concerned about writing styles per se. Your style is going to be developed, based on who you read, what your position is about things, how you go about presenting things. But the most important part of academic writing is to write actively, be an active writer, meaning you're going to put the subject verb. You're writing subject verb, subject verb. Now there are times where you write passively. It's okay to write passively, especially when you're not sure about who the subject is, who the actor was. Then it's okay to write passively. So you'll notice that scientists, even social scientists and journalists they write passively a lot, which if you run a Grammarly check, Grammarly goes nuts because Grammarly doesn't want you to write passively. Grammarly wants you to write actively. And the reason why Grammarly wants you to write actively is because active writing is more coherent. And Grammarly wants you to make sure your writing is coherent. Okay. So basically what I just did for you guys is I just ran through English 1301. Now you need to go through the modules, the sections yourself, but I basically just gave you the entire course. And you see how I did that in under 1 hour? You could finish this English Composition 1 course in 2 weeks, easy. I just gave you an overview of the whole course in under 60 minutes. Now, what I want to do now is I want to reserve some time for any questions that you may have about writing. Is there any questions about writing that you would like me to field? Or did I put everyone to sleep?
It's clear.
No one has any questions about how paper should?
Everything clear.
Just because we have to talk, doesn't mean you go out and be great writers. You got to practice, practice. I think what I want to do from this point forward is start doing peer review, where you guys switch papers yourselves. You guys help each other out in this journey. So we're going to start doing peer reviews for the next final projects. Course assessments. All right. We're going to start doing that. I know some people may be embarrassed by that, but you got to get over that. That's how you're going to improve on your writing. I still will look over your writing and give suggestions, but I want you guys to start doing peer reviews. So hopefully everybody will be in 1301 with the exception of 1 or 2 people, but everybody will be in 1301 by next week. You have gotten in 1301. Right. We need to make sure that everyone pays for philosophy 1101. I think it's 90, what is it, 90 euro or whatever it is. Okay. We need to, if you haven't paid me that, or you can pay the university directly, you don't have to pay me. All right. And I want to be clear about this academic support. I only want to support you guys for 4 classes. That's it. You shouldn't need my help after 4 classes. This is the second, 1301 will be the second class. You guys should be able to fly on your own. I'll still be here to help you administratively and things of that nature, but you guys should be able to fly on your own after 4 classes. Jamila, you have a question?
Yeah. There is this, I missed a point on this topic sentence should not be too general, or there's something I missed.
Too specific.
Sorry?
Too specific.
Oh, specific.
So a topic sentence would not be everyone needs water or people need water to live. That's too specific.
Okay.
That's too general. Yeah, too general, right? Yeah, too general. Right?
Okay.
A topic sentence wouldn't be Reno Roberts is African American. That would be too specific.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I get nervous when people don't ask me questions and I spoke for an hour. It even
Everything is clear.
tells me that I was either very boring and you want me to shut up, or that tells me you're not sure what's going on. All right. Now, here's what I'm gonna do, but you guys gotta pay me for my time. If any of you want to have a writing course with me, where you want me to sit down with you for 3 hours live, but it has to be live, not on, and I go over showing you how to write live in a writing course. We can do that, but I need at least 5 people. It needs to be a live session. All right, and I'm gonna charge you 200 reals for that because this is my time. All right. So if you guys want me to instantly sit down with you and show you all the intimate nuances of writing, I could do that, but you got to pay me for my time. I need about 3 hours, and you need to be dedicated for that at least 3 hours on a Saturday or whatever day. All right. If you think you need that level of attention, and I'll sit there for those 3 hours and show you how to write a sentence and show you how to develop a paragraph. All right. If not, you don't need to do that. I'm not saying it's mandatory, but some people don't have that level of advocacy. So maybe doing that might build your level of advocacy.
As for me, I think I need it.
Okay. This is why I've been saying for years that we need to stop teaching grammar in school. Because grammar does not teach you how to write. There's a lot of people, a lot of you guys know the rules of grammar, but you don't know how to apply the rules of grammar. Right? So if you want to have that course with me, you need to send me a private message, and then we can arrange with the people who want to have. But I need to at least have 5 people. Right? Mr. Ray's time is very valuable these days. All right. And shortly, I'm not going to be as free because I have to start my research soon, right, for my dissertation. So you guys need to get me now, because I'm not going to be free for a couple months, probably starting in January. All right. If there's no other questions, Zoran, you don't have any questions?
No, I don't have any question. I will read, then I will pile up questions.
I'm asking everyone to get their final projects in for Philosophy 101, 1101, and start English Composition 1301. I want everybody to be finished 1301 in 2 weeks. It shouldn't take you 2 weeks. I just explained the whole course in under an hour. Okay. All right. With that being said, we will see you guys on Wednesday. What I want to do on Wednesday is we're going to actually have a writing workshop on Wednesday where we use Google Docs. So if you do not have a Google account, you need to get a Google account, because we're going to use Google Docs, and you guys are going to actually live write, and we will peer review your sentences based on some things, some activities I'm going to have for you. So if you don't have a Google account, which most of you do, get one before Wednesday, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to do some live writing. All right, if there's no other questions, concerns, criticism, I will see you guys on Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks very much indeed, Dr. Roina, and for
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Shukran, shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.